Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. This is Alaka here for EPCreativeMedia, and happy new year to everybody out there. I just want to send you all lovely blessings. If you have made it into the new year, you are truly blessed because you still are breathing and are able to still make a difference, not just in your life but in other people's lives. And before we begin with this new video, I just want to go through the verse for the day, and it is coming from the book of Jeremiah 29 verses 11 to 13, and it reads, "For I know the thoughts that I think toward you, saith the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you an expected end. Then shall ye call upon me, and ye shall go and pray unto me, and I will hearken unto you. And ye shall seek me and find me, when ye shall search for me with all your heart." I actually love these particular verses because it's basically saying to us and reminding us that we need to seek God in everything that we do. We shouldn't basically use God like a genie where we only decide to go to him when we think it's convenient for us. We are supposed to seek him in every little thing that we do, because everything we do matters to him, and he wants to be able to guide us in the right way in all things, so that we are protected no matter what decisions we make, so that we don't fall astray into situations that we end up feeling like, we start questioning how we got into that position in the first place, because we did not have the protection of God, because we chose to only call upon him when we needed something. And God is not a genie that we should rub a lamp and expect him to appear only when we need him and then complain that he was not there for us when we didn't seek him and try to have a relationship with him to begin with. And so that's the verse for the day. So let us get on with the video. And so this particular video, I thought it was kind of perfect actually to start the new year. Simply because it's something I've actually been working on tweaking for a long time. So technically this is not something that's brand new to the people, but it's something that I wanted to just kind of add more to it. And I know people have put different types out there, and so this is kind of like my own version, because if there is anything that I love doing in The Sims 4, it's doing the Rags to Riches challenge. For some reason I'm absolutely obsessed with it. I've got so many save files where I am playing Rags to Riches, and basically I just enjoy seeing my Sims progress, from strength to strength, because as you are playing Rags to Riches, you basically actually allow your Sim to develop their skills, rather than them just doing surface things. They are forced to actually work on their skills in order to earn certain things, in order for them to obtain certain things, or in order for them to reach certain levels. And that's the point of this Rags to Riches challenge that I have decided to tweak. So the Rags to Riches challenge is not new to the Sims community. It's just a version. This version is just a version that I have decided to tweak. So I decided to name it Sims 4 High Difficulty Rags to Riches with mods and packs. Now bear in mind, I actually have another Rags to Riches challenge that I will be putting out there, but this one is going to be a base game edition only. So it will have a different type of difficulty, but at the same time certain things will be easier, because you will not have things like seasons to affect what you can and cannot do, right? Plants will not be going off too quickly and stuff like that because of rain, and you won't have plants that will be out of season at any given moment, basically. And so, but this particular one, obviously it's with mods and packs. And this is so that to basically provide the player with basically, I think, a little bit more difficulty, but also I think it will make it a little bit more exciting. You have something to look forward to when trying to achieve certain goals, etc. And having I think having the packs and mods included pretty much does that, and does add that level of realism in terms of the challenges that you have to face. And so basically how the challenge works is, basically this challenge is, the challenge level is not meant for the impatient. I'll just put it out there. Okay, this is a quick disclaimer. This challenge level is not meant for the impatient or the weak weak-willed. If you're weak-willed and you give in to stuff easily, you are going to ruin the challenge for yourself, because no cheats are permitted under any circumstances unless by way of the rules to enable a feature that is needed. This challenge also gives you the opportunity to populate Newcrest, and I highly implore you to actually populate Newcrest, especially if you've got all the DLCs, or at least a lot of the DLCs that come with like additional builds, such as like Dine Out comes with a restaurant. However, because it doesn't come with a world, you have to place the restaurant somewhere, and Newcrest is the ideal place for you to go ahead and place the restaurant. And there are other packs that come with additional builds in order for them to work, and I think Spa Day as well comes with a, you know, like a spa lot, and so you have to place that somewhere. Now with that said, obviously this is where the gallery comes in very handy, or places like the Sims resources, etc., where you can actually download entire tray files, etc., and then add them to your save file, and you know, place the necessary lots, whether they are no CC or CC filled lots. But Newcrest and other empty lots provide you with the opportunity to be able to place lots that are not readily available around the world, and it just helps you customize your save file so that it's a lot more enjoyable in the way that you would like, rather than it being generic, you know what I mean? And so I do implore that you go ahead and you utilize populating Newcrest, you know, for other bits and pieces that you might need, and with the necessary builds, you know, for the progress. This challenge permits the use of mods and custom content, as I mentioned, and all the packs to add variety and much needed difficulty. Your sim being homeless, obviously, when it's winter, for instance, you know, or raining, is no walk in the park. I will tell you this much. It's actually very difficult. It adds to the difficulty, and it kind of forces you to get your sim to actually grind away so that they can, you know, be in places or do things that stops them from being in the rain or freezing to death or anything like that, you know what I mean? I would say that because obviously you have to start this particular Rags to Riches in your new save file, I highly recommend in a new save file, because then you get to decide which season to start with. So you have to be very wise in making that decision. The season that you start with will determine how long your sim can go without suffering too much before they get to build a house, basically. I would also recommend that you change the settings for your seasons in the options, in the game options, because normally the seasons last for like 7 sim days. I would recommend that you stretch them out to 28 days. That way, if you are in a season where the weather can be quite decent and allows your sim to do more within that period of time, and you've got 28 days, you've got more time to do that. Whereas if it's 7 days, you will have 7 days of decent weather where you get to do quite a bit, and then before you know it, it's already winter and it's freezing and you can't harvest anything, you can't do much because it's cold all the time, you know. And so kind of like bear that in mind. With that said, you can decide if you want it to be like that. You can decide you want it to be 7 days, and I think there's another set of days in between the 28 and the 7 days, but I can't remember, because normally I always just move my 7 days to 28 days because I find that to be much better. I can do more within each season, basically. And so yeah, if you are a console player, or unfortunately you cannot use mods or CC, but you can use the money cheese to deduct funds where a mod would have auto deducted, you know, the funds. Okay, so the objective of this challenge is for your sim to start off as homeless with no money, and must work their way up from rags to riches by building a house with basic amenities, okay, securing a job, and achieving financial stability without using any cheats, okay, unless needed to enhance the challenge, advance the challenge. Otherwise, you are not permitted to use any cheats under any circumstances. The goal is to have at least 1 million simoleons in your Sim's bank account. So for instance, if you had reached, let's say, 900,000 simoleons, and then you obviously spent some more, and then you maybe spent like 50,000 simoleons, but you then earned an extra, I don't know, 150 simoleons, right? Or 100 simoleons. Technically you would have surpassed the 1 million, if that makes sense, but it will still be 950, right? No, wait. Yeah, it would be 950 because you would have not reached the million. So technically, your bank account has to reflect a full 1 million simoleons. It can't be that, oh, I spent a bit, but I've earned, more, and that should have counted towards it having been a million. No, your sim has to have a full million in your bank account for it to count as you actually having finished and completed the challenge. Okay. And this challenge does include a lot of restrictions on getting into a on things like getting into a romantic relationship until a certain income level is reached. The only time you can use cheats is to bring your sim money to zero, okay? And you can do that if you are using console, of course. You have to use Control-Shift+C to activate your cheat, and then typing testing cheats true, and then typing money 0. The other alternative is to use the rags to riches scenario at the start menu. So I don't know if a lot of people these days use scenarios that much, but they're actually a fun way to make your game a lot more interesting. You can try all the different types of scenarios and try to fulfill them. And there is a rags to riches scenario, which basically as soon as you select it and you start your game, it does take your money to zero as soon as you place your sim on the lot. And so you don't have to worry about activating the money, having to basically do the money cheats to take your household to zero. That's the advantage of using the scenario. The other alternative that will put your money to zero is when you use the homeless mod, which is basically a trait that you can place for your sim in CAS. And this basically causes your sim to actually be in a position where they will be deemed as a homeless sim as part of their trait, which obviously, once you build your house, you can actually remove that trait. You will have permission to remove that trait because you've built your house and you're technically no longer homeless. You're now just working towards that 1 million. Okay. But whilst you still have this particular mod as a trait, you will have the options to actually beg people for money. You'll be able to sit in public places and actually beg for money. And so in the beginning, when you have zero, especially when you're really having trouble, it is the perfect way to be able to earn yourself a little bit of extra money and be able to purchase things like a lunchbox, which you can move around and actually be able to have food with you all the time. With that said, there's only 2 items maximum you are permitted to purchase for your lot or for yourself. Everything else is actually not permitted, and I'm going to explain this a little bit later. But the homeless mod, once you place the trait in your sim, whilst you're creating your sim, as soon as you place your sim into the world, your funds, your household funds, if you did not use the scenario, will automatically go to zero as well, which is a plus. Obviously, you can use the cheats as well in order to place your sim. If you are trying to use an old save file and you're trying to move them to an empty lot, obviously there's a likelihood if they already got zero, it will tell them they cannot afford to move into the lot. And so in this particular situation, you will be required to maybe use the testing cheats true and then use the free real estate on in order to basically have access to that particular lot without having to pay a penny. And then that way the lot will be kind of like, obviously, your point of where you'll be going, even if technically you're homeless, and that shouldn't be your lot, if that makes sense. And the rules now in regards to playing the game, now that you understand a little bit of the objective of the game, is the first one is lore. Okay, you have to give your sim lore. In order for your story to be a lot more fleshed out and a lot more fun, I highly recommend that you give your sim a backstory. Okay, so before you begin playing, you must give your sim some lore as to why they have found themselves in this position. Did they lose all their money from bad investments? Did their divorce leave them bankrupt? Are they a teenage runaway? Did they get kicked out of the house? Are the mob after them and they have to start a new life with a whole new identity, and no money? Are they a victim of bad circumstances that have left them stranded with no money and no place to live? Whatever backstory that suits your storytelling will help in directing how your sim works their way from rags to riches. Okay, and then the next thing that I recommend, and obviously this unfortunately is not for console players, this is for PC and Mac players, sorry my voice seems to be going, is the list of mods that I highly recommend that you use that will make your game so much more fun. Yes, it probably will frustrate you from time to time, but that is the whole point, guys. That is literally the whole point. The first one that I highly recommend is SimRealist SNB Bills mod. And bear in mind, guys, every single mod that I recommend, I am providing documentation for this particular challenge, which will be available in the description, and it's going to have links pointing to every single mod that I am recommending, so that you can go ahead and download it. I would recommend, before you download each and every one of the mods, please, reading is fundamental. Do read the mod creators' descriptions and notes about their mods, because some of them have got specific instructions on how you have to place their mods in order for their mods to actually work effectively. So please do read the notes and the descriptions of the mods before you download them, so that you know exactly what you need to do once you download them and to place them, and also what you will need to do once you are in game, because some of them, their instructions are what you have to do once you are in game in order to activate the mods, for them to work effectively. So sim realist SNB Bills mod, and basically, since your sim is homeless, they will not be able to afford to pay for all utilities, especially on an empty lot, right? This mod will help you pay for only what you need, like your mobile phone only, for instance, because unfortunately you can't get rid of the phone, right? You literally can't get rid of the phone in Sims, whether you liked it or not. And so in order to kind of make it more realistic, which is kind of true today, even homeless people actually have phones, a lot of them do. This mod actually allows you to select what you can and cannot pay for, and so it allows you to basically only pay for what you can afford. So even in the beginning, obviously you will have zero money, which means you won't even be able to afford to pay for your phone, which means you have to select the lot that you decide to go to very carefully, because if you have easy access to like fishing spots or places you can be able to harvest things and be able to sell those things, that will be better, because then it will allow you to be able to quickly pay for your phone, because once you're able to pay for your phone, only then can you be able to travel. And so this is one of the rules that I have, is that every time your sim has to go somewhere, you cannot just press M, which is the map shortcut key to take you to travel. You cannot zoom out so that you can click on the little icon of the car that appears so you can travel. You have to always click on your phone for your sim to travel. And I specifically say that not because your sim is ordering an Uber, but it adds to the difficulty in the sense that if you are not in a position to pay for your phone, you will not be able to access your phone to be able to travel. It's that simple. Okay. And so yeah, that's it. That is the reason. Obviously there are some other rules that I've implemented, in the sense that if you are unable to if you have certain DLCs, you will not be permitted to sell your items directly from your inventory, which means obviously if you're not able to pay for your phone, you can't travel in order to go somewhere to sell your stuff on a selling table, etc. And so the only exception is in the beginning, so that you can at least just pay for your phone, okay, so that you can travel and actually be able to get to those venues that have selling tables, and you can be able to sell your items there. And so I'm gonna explain a little bit more about that in the next section. The next part is the next mod, should I say, is SimRealist SNB Bank mod. So this is the same mod creator. So the first one I mentioned is SNB Bills, basically meaning Sims National Bank Bills, and this next one is SimRealist SNB Bank, which is Sims National Bank mod. And this one basically allows your sim to start saving money and making direct deposits into your bank account and or savings account for that home your sims intends to build. Okay, this is actually really good because it stops your sim from actually spending all their money, because when a sim is hungry, it would automatically run to the nearest barbecue and it will literally use the money before you can stop them, and this can be problematic if you hardly have any money. And then also, if there's a vendor around who's selling food, your sim will literally run to that vendor and try to purchase something before you can get a chance to stop them. Whereas if a lot of the money goes to your sim's bank account, they won't be able to actually just spend the money just willy-nilly, basically. Okay, the next mod is another SimRealist mod, which is SNB Bank Financial Center. Now this one is obviously optional for you, but I think it adds to, again, to making your game a lot more fleshed out. And like I mentioned Newcrest earlier on, to be able to populate it, this is one of the builds that you can be able to populate it with. It's basically the SMB Bank Financial Center. If your sim cannot afford to pay their phone bill, that I mentioned, they can physically go to the bank to apply for a debit card. Use this to apply for a mortgage for the dream home once you reach the cap for the required amount needed in accordance with the challenge rules. This mod comes with, with a lot or lots. It actually comes with lots. The lot files you will need to place in the tray folder. Okay. And again, basically I will be providing instructions on how to go about. For those who don't know how to place tray folders into their files into their tray folders, I will link the video to my video to where I show people how to place mods, and because I also instruct how to place tray files within that particular tutorial. The next mod that you need is another sim realist, which is called Sim Realist Private Practice, and this one actually does require get to work. So if you do not have the get to work DLC, unfortunately this one will not work for you, because it kind of uses the coding system of the hospital, the hospital that comes with get to work basically. And so as a homeless sim, obviously you will be more susceptible to illnesses and so on, that sort of thing. So the right thing will be that you will have to visit the doctors from time to time in the event of an illness, and these are things especially that could maybe put you close to death, etc. Right? So you will be needing to go to some kind of doctor in order to get some help, but like I said, if you do not have get to work, this will not apply to you. But if you do, this is a great one. Again, you can add the lot for the private practice, because it does come with a lot as well, into the Newcrest world. Again, just adding that more variety to your game. The next mod that I recommend is SimCity Loans. Okay, and this one is to be used with SNB Bank. So this one is to be used with the SNB Bank mod, and this one basically, as your sim progresses and reach the required cap, they will be eligible to apply for a loan, and this mod is the answer to that. And so basically, once your sim reaches a place where they have managed to build their house, and maybe they're trying to expand their house, when they reach the point where they're trying to expand their house but they do not have enough money, they will be in a position to apply for a loan. But just bear in mind though, when your sim applies for a loan, once they reach 1 million in their household funds but they still have a loan they owe, which means technically they would have not reached that million, they would have not completed the challenge, because they have to first finish paying off the loan that they have, in order for them to have basically be fully in credit, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? And so kind of like, I explain a bit of that later, but also guys, you're gonna see a lot more details I think in the notes for this, because obviously I can't explain every single detail in this particular video, otherwise I think I'm going to end up making the video a little bit too long. The next mod that I recommend is Little Miss Sam's ATM machine. This allows, and it kind of works together with the Sims National Bank mod, because then you can apply for a debit card and then you use those ATM machines. You can place them around, different worlds, and your sim can actually be able to use the ATM, which is kind of good. So as they're progressing, this will actually be really helpful, because any money that's in their bank account, they'll actually be able to withdraw it using the debit card that they get from Sims National Bank, which is really cool. The other one is Little Miss Sam's lot entrance. Now with the lot entrance mod, basically is because in the challenge I have placed restrictions on how the sim can access certain facilities, and so with this particular mod, basically it allows for you to place lot traits and lot challenges, basically, or lot traits on certain builds such as the gym, the nightclub, and any other facility that you normally wouldn't be allowed to enter for free, basically in real life, right? You add the entrance fee lot trait, and every time your sim enters that particular lot, money will be deducted automatically from them. And this is basically so as to kind of say like you are actually paying to get here. So for example, if you're entering the gym, it will deduct a certain amount of money if you're entering the gym, like you would if you can't just enter a gym for free and decide you're going to use their showers, right? So even if you're homeless, you can purchase a day pass to say using the gym, but gyms have toilets and showers, and you can use their showers and get clean there. So that's the kind of the premise of the lot entrance mod. And the next one is Lazy Nif's homeless mod. That's the homeless mod I mentioned. And the Rags to Riches challenge would not be so challenging without adding real homeless features, right? And so a better mod than one that actually gives you that homelessness. And like I mentioned earlier, you'll be able to walk around, you'll be able to sit on the ground and beg for money, etc. But also it allows you to, if you've made friends with certain Sims around the world, you can basically maybe sometimes ask them if you can spend the night at their house, so you can do such things like sofa surfing, because that does happen, which also will allow you to kind of use their facilities a little bit. But obviously depending on the friendship level that you have with a particular Sim, they might allow you to use their shower without chucking you out the house. You definitely cannot use other Sims' beds, because you know what that happens. They will chuck you out. You can't cook in their house, they'll chuck you out. And again, this is all determined depending on the friendship level you have with that particular Sim, on whether they're going to stop you from sleeping on their bed, taking a shower and cooking in their house. But it does give you somewhere to sleep, in terms of you can use their sofa to actually nap, okay, which is a plus because you get to be indoors, especially if it's snowing. All right, the next one is Basemental Beep, and this one adds paraphernalia into the game, simply because, as real life is, especially when people are within the homeless community, etc., there is a lot of substance abuse that happens. This is also something, a mod you can actually add to give your Sim lore. You can say, they basically were abusing substances, and as a result they squandered all their money, and that's why they're homeless, and they're trying to get their life back together. And so you could make it so that they are addicted to something. So literally, the thing about this mod, it actually allows for Sims to be addicted to I think addicted to coffee is base game too, if I'm not mistaken. If not, I think it's this mod that adds it. But you can be addicted to alcohol and other substances that I won't mention on the channel, but it allows you for that, and you have to find a way to help them kick those habits as they try to progress, and again, that adds depth to your story. The next mod is Vicky Sims More Castrate, and the reason why I added this one is really good because it adds more traits to your game, and it adds more variety on the type of character your Sim is going to be. And Vicky Sims, basically also known as Chongyu, is it Chongyu? I think it's Chongyu. Chongyu basically has 100 base game traits for you to choose from. 100. Okay, so you get 100 base game traits for you to choose from in order to just add that needed variety for your Sim, And then in conjunction with Vicky Sims More Cast Traits is the Pancake One and Mizuruyoki's More Traits in Cast. And so basically, More Traits in Cast adds additional cast traits, slots. That way, when you are making your Sim in the beginning, you actually have the option to not just give them 3 traits, but you can give them additional traits that come with Vicky Sims, mod. So that's a huge plus. And then you've got Roberki's Meaningful Stories, and I decided to add this one to the list simply because when your Sim is homeless, they're going to be going from one extreme to another quite a lot, and unfortunately the game engine has not been designed for your Sim to gradually go from one moodlet to another moodlet, which it can be disturbing when your Sim is trying to focus and they're doing a task where they're focused doing a task, but maybe they're grieving someone who's passed away, or they're feeling tense because they haven't had enough fun or something like that. And you find that once they're focused, they keep switching back and forth, and you keep hearing that dreaded sound effect. When you add Roberki's Meaningful Story, it allows for your Sim to gradually go from one moodlet to another without it being so extreme, which then doesn't affect your Sim as they're doing tasks in such an extreme manner, if that makes sense. Because I feel like it is unrealistic as well, because as human beings, we can be feeling sad, but at the same time we're able to kind of focus on a job while still feeling sad at the same time. And that's where the gradual emotions are, where at least whilst you're at work, maybe even if you're sad inside, when you get home, then you allow yourself the opportunity to just kind of cry it out, right? And that's a gradual progression. That's kind of like the end of the list of the mods I recommend. If you know of any other mods that you would love to add to your game to even add more challenges, feel free to add them. More kudos to you, because then you are actually having fun with this particular challenge. And obviously, as mentioned, no cheats. Okay, cheats that give your sim money or help their needs, skills, relationships, or reward store. There's the reward store, the little elixirs, the little bottles of juices that you get that you have to drink. They are not permitted. Okay, so I repeat, cheats that give your sim money or help their needs or their skills or their relationships or reward store elixirs are not permitted. This includes the scoring simoleons. You know how you normally have the scoring simoleons every single time you do something nice and 400 simoleons just like that appears? Okay, that is not permitted either. You can turn this off by going into game options, and in the tutorial and tips option, deselect discovery quest. That's what that is. The challenge relies on your sim's hard work and resourcefulness. That is the core of this challenge. Your sim really has to use everything that they have without anything being handed to them, so to speak, unless they're begging for money, which is a challenge in itself because it can be embarrassing depending on the type of trait that you give your sim. Okay, and so now to get started with the whole homeless challenge, obviously you create your sim, right? Create your sim, but you have to make them look disheveled. They cannot look amazing and glamorous like they used to. No, they have to look disheveled in unflattering clothing. The game has plenty of base game clothing that looks raggedy, and so that will suffice, especially if you are using if you're only console player. So you kind of spoiled for choice on that aspect, to be honest. You are free to use CC there are CC creators who actually have made disheveled clothing for people to use in challenges like the homeless challenge, where literally the clothes will actually look dirty all the time. And so after you have finished with that, you've given them the necessary traits, go ahead and add your sim to the lot. After you've added your sim to the lot, obviously you can go into the game options, and in the game options you have to go and make sure that your sim's lifespan is set to normal. Okay, that's very important. Set your sim's lifespan to normal, as this is mandatory. You cannot have them basically not ever having to age or die. They have to be normal, which means you're going to be working with the time crunch, obviously, to try and get them to do things before they actually pass away. Try and get them to basically reach that million before they pass away. That is the aim. Okay, that means you're going to have to work with time, but also get your sim to kind of work really hard. Another thing is no jobs are allowed until you have a basic house. So your sim cannot take up a job until they have built a house. You literally do not have an address. Okay, you don't have an address, so you cannot really have a house. You cannot have a job, without an address, for everything to kind of go to. This also means you cannot place any appliances on the lot, as you do not have the electricity, wiring, nor do you have the plumbing for them to actually function. It would be unrealistic. Your sim has to earn at least a minimum of 20,000 simoleons before they can start building. So if they have less than 20,000 simoleons, they are not permitted to start building. This is where, if you're able to use mods, the SMB banking mod is ideal, because then you can literally open a savings account and have your sim start saving money in that account, and then any money that is left in the household funds, your sim can actually use for whatever it is that they need to use it for, traveling around, doing stuff, having a bit of fun if they want to from time to time, whilst actually knowing that the money that they're saving is secure in the bank account without it being squandered, basically. But the minimum amount for them to actually be in a position to build a house is 20,000 simoleons, and once they do have that 20,000 simoleons, in order to start building the house, they have to pay 1,000 simoleons towards a building permit. That building permit is what's going to allow them to actually now begin to start building that house. And so once you're building that house, obviously if you've deducted 1,000 simoleons from the 20k, you've got 20k flat, that is, you'll have 19k. And if the 19k is sufficient for you to finish placing all the mandatory items, your sim has to grind some more until they fulfill all the mandatory items before they can get to the next stage of this particular challenge. Okay, and the items that they're going to need to have mandatorily in their house is a bathroom, and the bathroom has to have a toilet, a shower, or a bathtub and a sink. They have to have a kitchen. This can be open plan kitchen, dining, and living room. That is fine. But they have to have a kitchen with a fridge, a stove, a sink, a bin, or a trash can as Americans call it, at least 2 counters, and a smoke detector. Okay, they have to have like a dining room area, dining room or a dining area, and it has to have at least 1 table and at least 1 chair. And then they have to have a bedroom, and the bedroom basically has to be separate from the kitchen and the lounging area. So that's very important because it does cost money to put walls up, right? So the bedroom has to have a bed and at least 1 side table and a mirror. Okay, actually 1 side table, a mirror, as well as 1 chest of drawers or a clothes wardrobe. Okay, at least a chest of drawers or a clothes wardrobe. That's very important. And then you have to have lighting for each room. So each and every room has to have a light in it. Okay, the living room or the living room area has to have at least 1 sofa, a coffee table, and an entertainment item such as a TV or a radio, or both if you can afford them. Okay, and then you have to have a garden as well, and the garden has to basically have at least 1 harvestable plant or tree and an outdoor bin. That is important. And then you have to have a fence with a gate. This is to enclose the lot. So you literally have to have a whole fence around the house and a gate placed so that the house is fully enclosed and it actually fully looks like a house. And obviously, not forgetting, make sure that you put a roof and make sure that you put the trimming on the roof. So these are the mandatory items that you're going to be required in order to kind of move on to the next stage of this challenge. Okay, so moving right along, we've got the items that are permitted. Okay, if you have any DLCs that come with tents, you can purchase a tent, and you can purchase the lunchbox that comes with the base game, because for some of you who do not know, they did introduce a lunchbox in the base game which works in the similar capacity as a cooler that came with the camping pack. And so you can purchase the lunchbox and you can purchase a tent once you've earned some money to be able to purchase those things, because with tent, everybody knows you can literally carry it on your back and move around with it, and homeless people do that. And with the lunchbox, it's small, it can fit in your backpack, you know, so we're kind of using that type of level of imagination, and you can easily move around with that. Those are the only 2 items that you are actually permitted to purchase. Okay, in order to have something to eat, you know, for your lunchbox, obviously, but the cooler box is actually not permitted, because cooler boxes are actually a lot bigger, and if you're homeless, I doubt it's very realistic that you would be moving around and trying to get on public transport or to hitchhike or whatever. With a cooler box with you, it will be very heavy, you know, it will be very uncomfortable to move around with. So that one, even if you have the DLC that comes with it, you are not permitted to purchase that. Your sim is homeless and can only carry so much with them. Basically, you cannot place the camping shower, okay, because obviously some of the homeless challenges or rags to riches challenges do advise that you can, as long as you can place something in your inventory, you can purchase it even if you're homeless. However, the reality is something that's in your inventory is something you can carry, right? In your personal inventory, that is. Your household inventory, even worse, because you don't have a house for it to go to anyways. And so you cannot purchase a camping shower. Again, the camping pack comes with like a camping shower that can go in your inventory because it works off the grid. You cannot purchase that. You cannot purchase the bush either if you've got get together. You cannot purchase the bush. If you are on a lot that happens to have a bush or a toilet, a public toilet nearby, then, you know, by all means do that. I can even give you a few hints. If you have get together, you can move to what's the word for get together? Windenburg. And when you move to Windenburg, there is an empty lot. I can't remember the name of the area, but when you're on the map, it's basically further up towards the left. If you move on any of the empty lots in that area, you have easy access to a barbecue, you have easy access to benches, and you'll have easy access to a bush, which is literally next to the land that you'll be living at. And so you'll be able to actually have somewhere where you can actually easily nap and pee and fish and harvest for things. If you decide to go to somewhere like Willow Creek, the original world, Willow Creek does have a lot of really nice places that you can go around and harvest and things like that. However, there are no public toilets, so you won't have somewhere where you can pee and stuff like that. So your sim will be able to pee themselves. But there is a bench in a little place that I call an allotment area. However, the other alternative I could recommend is Newcrest. With Newcrest though, it all depends on which section, and I can't remember for the life of me which section exactly. You would have to figure it out yourself. But there is a section in Newcrest, if you move to one of those empty lots there, that actually has a toilets in walking distance, and you can be able to actually use those toilets to relieve yourselves, and there's benches as well around, so you can be able to have somewhere to sleep. And Newcrest is actually quite lucrative for finding harvestables and diggables and things like that. So those are a couple of hints I can be able to give you. Obviously there's Sulani as well. If you've got island living, Sulani has got, if you basically depending on where you are again and what's within your vicinity, there are places you can literally nap, and you can obviously, use the sand to kind of try and find shells and things like that. But also people tend to leave, although I don't think you can nap in them, to be honest. I was gonna say maybe you can use the boat to kind of nap in it, but I don't think you can. And so yeah, but Newcrest and Windenburg, in those two areas, quite ideal if you are homeless and you're trying to find somewhere to sleep and somewhere you can pee, etc. Yeah, anyways, moving right along, is there anything else that you are permitted? Yeah, you can't place the camping shower. You cannot purchase or place a bush. You have to find alternative means to use the toilet and shower. Basically, you're not permitted to place anything else on the lot until your sim has built their full house. It's that simple. So only those two items are permitted, and that's that. Okay. Now, earning money. How do you go about earning money? Your sim can earn money through the following means, okay? Collecting and selling harvestables, fishing or finding and selling collectibles, collecting and breeding frogs. And here's the little trick about frogs, okay? This is a little hint, because I know especially if someone is fairly new to Sims, they might not be able to figure it out. But if you are collecting frogs, right? Frogs, if you pay close attention to the frogs, they normally have an individual name. Now, if you happen to have found two frogs, for instance, but they've got different names, you have to breed those frogs. Don't sell them immediately. Breed those frogs. When you breed those frogs, it will either rebreed one of each of the species, or it will breed a whole new species. And when it breeds a new species, it will actually have like a double barrel name. Okay, that's how you know that's a crossbreed, basically. And what I tend to do with the frogs, and this has actually helped me a lot in some of my rags to riches, is that whenever I do breed frogs, I try my best as well to try and find as many new locations as I possibly can where I can find frogs, because you find frogs will range from 10 simoleons and up. So you find a frog for 10 simoleons, for 30 simoleons, 35 simoleons, and I don't know if it's 60 simoleons, but they kind of go up. And I think the most expensive frog you can breed, I think, is about 160 simoleons, give or take, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But that happens when you've been able to crossbreed certain frogs. And so what I tend to do is, the more I collect frogs, basically, the more I try to crossbreed on the collection of frogs that I have that are of different species. And then what I also tend to do, which also, by the way, reduces your electricity bill, because also the importance of this when it comes to the time crunch is that you're working against time, not just for you aging, but also before your next electricity bill comes, so you can be able to afford to pay the bills, right? Even if you're technically homeless, which I think is annoying. I feel like someone needs to create a mod where if you are deemed homeless, you will not get bills as well. So basically the frogs, I tend to breed the two most expensive frogs together. And when I breed the two most expensive frogs together, it tends to give me the next expensive one. But also that is the determining factor for this, obviously, is one, if the two most expensive frogs that I'm breeding are not already crossbreeds themselves, because then they will not breed a brand new species. That will be the determining factor of when I'm going to get a brand new species that is of a higher value, if that makes sense. If not, you're just going to get the same type of breed of either one of the two that you've bred, if that makes sense. And then I tend to delete everything else, to be honest, unless I am still trying to breed as many as I can to establish the extra species and stuff like that. Otherwise, I do tend to get rid of all the frogs that I've collected, and I just keep the two most expensive ones, because every 4 hours with frogs, you are allowed to breed. So basically the cool-off period for breeding frogs is 4 hours. So every 4 hours, if you happen to have made 150 Somalian frogs, and you're breeding those two, that works out really well for your sim, because every 4 hours you're able to breed the frogs, and then you just sell the third one every single time, because it's going to be the exact same frogs over and over and over again. Basically, that's a little trick when it comes to the frogs. And also, what else? Yeah, basically, let me see, collecting and breeding frogs. If you have city living or other DLCs that come with the selling table, like I mentioned earlier, you have to use the selling tables at community lots or the flea market. So you are basically not permitted to sell things directly if you have DLCs that come with the selling table. Okay, and with that said, though, you're still not permitted to purchase the selling table, for the simple reason that you are not able to carry it around. You are homeless. Okay, so you are not actually able to carry around that. Is there any exception I can make? No, there is no exception I can actually make in this particular situation, to be honest. You are not permitted to sell them directly from your inventory, nor are you permitted to purchase any selling tables. Your sim is homeless with no car and cannot carry a table around with them. I think maybe the only exception I can make is, the only exception I can make is if your sim is able to afford to purchase a bicycle, because yes, some homeless people are given bicycles, or people donate bicycles to them. And if you are able to purchase, if you earn enough money and you purchase a bicycle, only then can you buy the selling table, because the selling table does fold and you'll be able to be in a position to put it at the back technically of your bicycle. So this is the only time you'll be able to purchase a selling table. But if you're not in a position to afford to purchase a bike, or you have not found a bike in the dumpster when you're doing dumpster diving, you basically cannot purchase a selling table. That's the exception I can make. Now, other options, obviously, from earning money, because we're still talking about earning money options, are painting or writing books and selling them for income, but they can only write using the library computer. So your sim, yes, can paint and write, but they can't do it on their lot because they cannot purchase an easel. Remember, you don't have anywhere to place it, nor can you purchase a computer because you don't have a home yet, right? And so you have to use places like the library, computers, and paint using easels that you find available in public spaces or community lots, or at the art gallery, the museum, so to speak. They cannot buy any of these items until they have built their basic house and furnished it with all the mandatory items. So you basically cannot buy any extra items for your house until you've first purchased all the basic stuff that were already put on the list, if that makes sense. Entering and winning small competitions like karaoke, GigCon, Humor and Hijinks, Spice Festival, all which are all inside my Shino, by the way. Gaming using the library computer or other skill-based events, that you attend and participate in. You can earn money that way as well. And if you do happen to win any items that go in your inventory, you unfortunately have to sell them, for the simple reason that you're not able to carry these things around with you. You have to sell them immediately, and that includes the microphone that you could potentially win at GeekCon. Okay, you can also do things like performing as a street musician, singer, that sort of thing, you can literally just stand somewhere and actually start singing, and Sims will tip you money. But if you go to certain lounges, you will find that some of them have got microphone that you can actually sing there, and you get tips for that as well. If you find a guitar somewhere, you can literally pick it up and start learning how to play the guitar. And whilst doing all of these things, your Sim is actually building up on those particular skills as well. Okay, your Sim cannot apply for a job. Okay, unfortunately, at this stage, your Sim cannot apply for a job because there won't be any kind of stability for you to show for that you can get the job, plus the simple fact that you look disheveled and homeless. So you cannot apply for a job until you have built your basic house and have a minimum of 5,000 simoleons in your bank account. It's that simple. If your Sim goes dumpster diving, they cannot keep any of the appliances they find if they have not built their house yet. So basically, after your Sim has built their house, right, obviously they have to have all the basic amenities. Now, in order to do that, remember your Sim first has to have the 20,000 simoleons minimum. And if you decide to go dumpster diving after you've made your 20,000 simoleons, and you happen to find a fridge, etc., yes, you can then keep the furniture to be able to place them in your house whilst you are building the house, if that makes sense, because you've reached the quota. You cannot use the thrifty shortcut. Now, the thrifty is a great way of making extra money, because I know I've done it before, just like playing around, right? But for this particular challenge, to add to the difficulty, you are not permitted to go install an outfit for 300 simoleons and then sell it for 500,000, because it defeats the purpose of the challenge. And so this is what I have implemented instead, right? Instead, if you start an outfit to sell through Thrifty, you cannot list it for more than 300 simoleons above the cost price. Okay, you can't list it for more than, so for example, it cost you 300 to make the outfit, then yes, you can add another 300 on top of it, which means you'll be technically selling it for 600 simoleons, okay? And that's fine. But anything more than 300 increment above the cost price, you're not permitted, because then it just ends the challenge too quickly and takes away the fun. So this rule actually also applies for any items you sell at a custom price. So anything else that you make, etc., and you have the option to custom sell it, and you have to set the price, you can't sell it for more than 300 simoleons above the cost, price basically of the item. Another thing is no inheritance or gift. Your Sim cannot receive any inheritance, monetary gift, or hide or keep money for anyone who calls to give you money. Okay, they cannot go to that like disgustingly sleazy hotel with that rich entrepreneur to receive gifts. They're not allowed to do that. They cannot accept money from any long lost relative who's passed away, or any other windfalls from others. You're not permitted to do any of that thing. The only time you're allowed to receive money is when you do the typical begging way, the typical homeless begging route basically. The next one is getting a job. Now, how do you guys best getting a job, you ask? Your Sim cannot apply for a job if they have less than 5,000 simoleons. I mentioned that earlier, in their bank account, right? This is because in order to apply for a job, they will need a new wardrobe for the job interviews. You will need to take your Sim into CAS and deduct 500 simoleons for shopping. So this will say that yes, they use 500 simoleons to do their shopping, so for their clothes, etc. Or obviously, alternatively, if you have Get to Work, you can use the gallery to place retail stores where your Sim can physically purchase new clothes. When your Sim purchases new clothes, they will cost approximately 200 and something to 300 simoleons per outfit. So the outfits normally will come with a whole, top, bottom, or a full dress and shoes, and I think some accessories. It all depends on how whoever created the particular build styled the mannequins, basically, on what outfit your Sim is actually going to end up wearing, if they like it at all to begin with. Okay, so you definitely need get to work for that to actually function. If not, then you just take your Sim into CAS and deduct 500 simoleons, after you've dressed them up. And this is a great opportunity basically for your Sim to now look like they have an address. And they will also need to do things like print their CV, etc. So that's why, basically they have to kind of like look the part, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? They have to, the reason why they have to have like the 5,000 simoleons is for them to print their CV, buy their clothes, and just pay for things that will put them in preparation to move into the workforce. Okay, what about romantic relationships? Like I mentioned, they're not permitted to have a romantic relationship until they've built their house, etc., and are earning a certain amount of money, right? So your sim cannot pursue a romantic relationship until they have obtained a job with an hourly wage of at least 60 simoleons an hour. So basically the only way your sim can get a job is if they've built their full house anyways, right? And they have a minimum of 5,000 simoleons in their bank account. But even then, they're not allowed to pursue a romantic relationship until they have at least they're earning at least 60 simoleons per hour. Okay, and once the income requirement is met, your sim can date. They have to go on at least 4 dates before attempting any sort of marriage proposal. Okay, at least 4 proper dates. That's very important. It's extremely vital. And once in their relationship, they cannot have a child until they get married, and they cannot move in with their partner until they are married. And I purposely set this for a couple of reasons. I think it just adds to that more my type of wholesome gameplay, but also it allows your sim to actually keep building up their skills, because once your sim is married, they will move in together, and if they end up having a child, that's 2 extra sims that you have to be controlling, which means whilst you're working towards that 1 million, if your main sim has not built up a lot of their skills to help push and advance them financially, you're going to have more trouble now trying to build their skill, trying to build the partner's skill who's just they got married to, and the child's skill. Whereas if they are not married yet and he's still having to live by himself, you've got 1 sim to control or to manage at least, you know, for a longer period of time, and you have the opportunity to actually maximize a lot of their skills before the other sim comes and moves in with them after they're married, because then you're going to have to try and help that other sim boost their skills so that can also help towards the income for the house. And so that's one of the reasons why I did that, but also it just adds to that extra challenge as well of, you know, trying to get your sims to court one another rather than just jumping straight into woohoo and all that stuff. And the next part is budgeting. Okay, guys, you have to learn to help your sims budget better. Your sim must manage their finances effectively and avoid overspending. Sims have a habit of buying random drinks, food and food at stalls, and tipping people even when they can hardly afford to have a shower. This is where things like the SMB banking mod comes in handy, as it prevents your sim from spending the little they have. Okay, any necessary items, for example a fridge, bed, etc., must be bought with the money earned and not cheat. So you're not allowed to cheat your way into getting any of these items. If your sim has not reached 1 million simoleons yet, they cannot simply replace items when they are broken. They have to repair them. So whenever an item is broken, some people tend to just click replace. No, in this particular case, for this challenge, your sim is not permitted to simply replace an item if they have not reached 1 million simoleons just as yet. They will need to basically fix and repair basically any broken items, and this is actually good because it pushes them to build up their handiness skill, and with their handiness skill up and the salvaged parts that they will find from fixing items, they will have the opportunity to start upgrading a number of their items in the house, such as the bed, the shower, etc., because the more you upgrade items, the less likely they are to break as well. And so it's a win-win where you're going to end up with a lot of items that actually do not break easily, but also you will be in a position where you would have built up your handiness skill as well, which is a good thing. And then there's expanding the house. So once your sim has a job and a stable income, they can expand and improve their house gradually. Additional rooms and amenities can be added over time as they accumulate more wealth. Only when your sim reaches 1 million simoleons in the bank can the challenge be complete. Okay, and so for those people who do not have mods, particularly those who don't like using mods, or for those who are on console, basically you can do the following. Every time your sim travels to another lot, they pay a bus fare of 3 simoleons. So you can deduct that using the money chits, right? Every time your sim uses a public venue or a toilet, they pay 5 simoleons. Every time your sim goes to the gym to use the amenities, they pay a gym day pass of 20 simoleons. Every time your sim goes to a nightclub, they pay 40 simoleons entry fee. So that's pretty much, the homeless challenge or the rags to riches challenge, whichever one you want to name it. I hope you find this little rundown basically of how you have to, you can go about it helpful. And yeah, like I mentioned, I'm going to be putting the documentation in for the link for the documentation in the description. That way you'll be able to actually download the PDF or just view it directly from my website and kind of just follow the instructions that way. Which kind of, it just adds to the fun, to be honest. I enjoy rags to riches challenges, and I thought, let me try and make it an extreme edition, not just for myself, because this is actually a new one I've just implemented, so which means I'm actually going to be trying it out as well, and maybe I might do some video recordings, you never know, of me actually doing this challenge, which should make it, so much more fun. And so otherwise, guys, thank you so much for watching my video to the end. I actually thought I was going to go through this extremely quickly, so I'm a little bit gutted that it's taken slightly longer than I anticipated, but that's fine. Otherwise, once again, everybody, happy blessed new year. May your year ahead be filled with blessings, may it be filled with joy, may it be filled with God's love. May you please practice more kindness, more patience, more compassion towards others. We are living in more and more perilous times where kindness honestly goes a long way. Okay, and I just want to remind for those people, if you are new to my channel, please do click on that subscribe button, click the bell button for new notifications every time I upload new videos. Leave your comments down below because it really does help me immensely in the algorithm. Give this video a thumbs up if you did enjoy this explanation of the rags to riches challenge and how to kind of like enjoy the extreme edition version of the rags to riches challenge. I'll very much appreciate it, and feel free to share this video for anyone that's looking for a rags to riches challenge but doesn't know how to go about doing it, and maybe this explaining it actually helps them. I would very much appreciate it. Otherwise, guys, as for me, from now it's take care, may God bless you and your loved ones. Take care and goodbye.